Hi, I'm Matt here in Michigan.
And I'm Randle here in Texas. Today, Matt and I are taking a look at Season 2 of the Star Wars spin off series, The Mandalorian. It has been out for a little bit, and the season finale has already aired. Matt and I will be getting into spoilers in this discussion, so if you haven't seen it, make sure you watch it before you watch this review. Mandalorian stars Pedro Pascal, Gina Carano, Giancarlo Esposito, Tamura Morrison, and Ming-Na Wen. It is created by Jon Favreau with executive producer Dave Filoni.
Now, in season 2 of The Mandalorian, Din Djarin is on a mission to unite the child with other members of his kind. Now, all episodes are currently streaming on Disney Plus. Season 2 has been generally praised by both critics and audiences. Now, Randall, I am still enjoying this show, The Mandalorian Season 2. What do you think about it?
I genuinely agree with the consensus that it's pretty well done. I enjoyed the plot, I enjoyed some of the character moments, but I do have some complaints that I will get into a little bit later in the review. Genuinely good feelings about it, though. I'm happy about the direction that it was taking with Star Wars so far. Go fanboy, Matt, go!
So yes, there is a lot of fan service in this season of The Mandalorian, and I'll get a little bit more into that when Randall and I talk more in depth about it. Randall and I are going to do something a little bit different this time. Randall and I are going to talk about, or I should say, we're going to give one sentence for each episode of season 2 to just kind of see what our general thoughts are on each episode. So Randall, I'll let you start. Episode 1, what's your sentence for it?
Timothy Olyphant stole the show.
My sentence is Tremors is a good way to start off the new season.
Okay, wait, before we go further, a mutual friend of ours who's just watching this texted me and said, I just can't believe that they didn't Burt Gummer the crab dragon. That's what Chris told me. I'm like, you're so right. All right, Matt, what's your sentence for episode 2?
Episode 2. I would say this is a filler with alien references, but even naughty Yoda is still fun.
I say, spiders didn't work in Lost in Space 98. Why would they work for this?
Randall, what about your episode 3?
Bo-Katan has aged a lot better than Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I said Bo-Katan in another train heist episode. Yes, yes, yes.
All right, Matt, number 4.
Number 4, I would say it's an exciting episode with returning characters that sets up quite a bit for the rest of the season.
Dave Filoni cleaning up other people's messes again.
Oh, Dave Filoni, he's so well at that. All right, Randall, what do you think about episode 5?
So, what about Luke?
Oh, wow, okay. My episode 5 was, I can't believe we started the episode with Ahsoka Tano in live action, but more, yes please.
All right, Matt. Ahsoka Tano, live action, getting her own series eventually. Moving on to episode 6.
I would say it's my least favorite episode of the series, even with the return of Boba Fett.
My sentence for episode 6 is, this is the Boba Fett that people always imagined was real.
Oh yeah, that a lot of fans were hoping for that one. All right, Randall, what's episode 7 for you?
It just made me think all about Clerks and the independent contractors.
Oh, Clerks. I thought this was an excellent episode with a lot of action and some good character development.
Ooh, nice. Now, the last episode of the season finale, what's your sentence for that one?
Oh my goodness, my sentence for this one. Action-packed with an awesome female team-up and a surprise I did not think would have as big of an impact on me as it did.
Man, mine's different. Mine's very different. Really? Stop and freeze? You have them at point blank, stormtroopers, just shoot them. Plot armor! Alright, that's fun. That was a different take on, one sentence for every episode, but now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the things that we liked or didn't like about Season 2 of The Mandalorian. Matt, I'll let you head it off. Really, what is the thing that you want to say about season 2?
So something I was going in a little bit about this season was a lot about fan service. We saw a lot of already established characters. I already mentioned them. They're Boba Fett, Bo-Katan, and Ahsoka Tano, and that surprise that we got there in the last episode with Luke Skywalker. And to me, I think it worked out okay because even though we have these well-established characters in it, they weren't the main focus. Din Djarin and the child still remained the focus of this season, so it didn't bother me as much that we had all these other established characters come into season 2.
I think it's safe to say he's Grogu, Matt.
He is Grogu.
He's Grogu. He has a name, and his name is Grogu. But I do think that some of the things that are really good about this is that the plot of this season is strong. What they're trying to do is strong. I just don't necessarily always agree with how they tried to get there. Like you had mentioned, there's some filler episodes here and there that didn't necessarily need to be filler episodes. There's a lot of plot-driven story in this instead of character-driven story. In fact, I think some of the characters just do things because the plot says they have to do it. And like you mentioned, absolutely a lot of fan service. Now, fan service isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there is such a thing as too much fan service. And I do think season 2 tips it in the too much category, especially in comparison to season 1 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I wonder if we saw a lot of these characters not just because it enhances the story as much, but maybe it's because of Disney trying to set up different things. Like we mentioned, the Ahsoka show.
10 new Star Wars series, Matt.
Yeah, it's something rare, and that's the thing too. Yeah, we're setting up all these different things in there too. I kind of want to point to that episode 6, my least favorite. A lot of the negatives I have about this series or this season, I think is really highlighted in that 6th episode. One of the things you mentioned, plot driven, things happen just because they have to. Mando takes off his jetpack. Why? Boba Fett tells him to, but the reason is it's to drive the plot. Another thing too about this show and stuff, I understand stormtroopers, they're cannon fodder, right? To overextent, I think in this 6th episode, they are only in this show now just to fill time. But at least in some of the movies, at least there we get a little bit like the stormtroopers are actually a bit of a challenge for heroes. They actually add to a little bit of tension. In episode 6, they were nothing but cannon fodder. I mean, it was only jokingly.
Honestly, that's just the Mandalorian entirely. I know off camera we had this discussion where you said, there's definitely people who have just bought into the stormtroopers are just expendable, worthless, they can't aim, they just, they're just there to die. They bought into that stereotype of stormtroopers, and I don't think that stereotype works very well in this setting, because if the Empire is gone at this point and the New Republic's trying to do their thing and whatnot, the stormtroopers that remain are probably the hardcore ones, not the junk recruit ones. They should be better than what they're portrayed, and not just in the 6th episode of this season, but definitely in the last episode. There's a whole ship, there's platoons of stormtroopers on the ship that they're infiltrating, and there's 6 of them. That amount of stormtroopers can handle 6 people. They come away completely unscathed. And that's just not realistic, even for Star Wars.
Well, yeah, another thing too, there's a point in it where Din Djarin and Fennec are surrounded by stormtroopers, and it kind of takes away from that part in the Bo-Katan episode where Din Djarin is blocking the blast, but basically collapses and throws the thing. In this one, he's just standing in there like RoboCop, taking fire from every angle, and it doesn't matter. He's not even being fazed by it.
We had this whole discussion, and we did a series of reviews on the prequels. We haven't really talked too much about the sequel movies, but they generally disappointing. For a long time, Star Wars was kind of disappointed. And then season 1 of The Mandalorian comes along, and it's like, finally, thank you. Something grounded, something that cares about canon, something that, is actually good to watch in the Star Wars universe that's not Rogue One, because I like Rogue One. Season 2, I think, as good as I like, is like the plot. Again, I don't mind the story they're trying to tell. It's how they're doing it that bugs me the most. I'm like, season 2 undoes a lot of some of the goodwill that I had from season 1. Even though I genuinely enjoyed it, and I can understand other people enjoying it, I am disappointed with how they ended up telling the story. So I had this, headcanon, obviously, of the child, or Grogu, and his mission being to return him to his people.
You must reunite it with its own kind.
But apparently that's not what that means at all. What it means is returning him to the Jedi, return him to his kind, because apparently he has to be a Jedi. That's just plot driven, He doesn't have to be a Jedi.
I think part of it too is a lot of George Lucas didn't want like the Yoda species or whatever to really be named and explored. So that's probably the reason why they're doing it. But hey, I just want to say I don't want it to look like I do not like this season. I enjoyed this season a lot from start to finish. Every episode minus the 6th episode, I enjoyed greatly. I can't wait to see more of this stuff because I still enjoy all this. Even with all the flaws, I still enjoy watching the show. This is some of the most enjoyment I've gotten from Star Wars or TV in general.
I think the show does more right than it does wrong, and I can't praise enough the fact that there is really good canon building in this and respect to canon inside of this, where they actually care about Star Wars and not trampling on or just, retconning everything. The show is still very good for that, and the character is still very interesting. And you see real growth in Din Djarin's character this time around by Pedro Pascal, things that you definitely only hint at just barely in season 1. So this season is still massively enjoyable. It's not as clean cut. It's now leaning more towards fan service, which is, as soon as you start doing that too much for me personally, you start maybe going the wrong way. I was really happy watching this one-off story that didn't have all these main characters, and now all these main characters are showing up.
I would say one thing too, this season is definitely more directed at people who've probably already seen the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels. And that's the thing too, I think it was an excellent job to have Katie Sackhoff do Bo-Katan, because she is the person that has voiced the character, and I was a little bit disappointed that Ashley Eckstein wouldn't be doing the same thing with Ahsoka Tano, but I think Rosario Dawson nailed Ahsoka even with those concerns that I had. By the end of that episode, just some of the looks and stuff that Rosario Dawson did with the character, I put like my concerns, whatever, to rest. I think she does embody that character really well.
I'm worried about franchise fatigue, much like with superhero films, but at least with superhero films as opposed to series, it's like, hey, you go sit down and watch this for 2 hours and you're done. If you were going to launch 10 new series, that's a lot. I'm trying to get wrap my head around 10 new series. Wow. And that's kind of getting off topic from The Mandalorian, but, season 3 of The Mandalorian is coming out next year as well. And they didn't really tell you what's going. Is the Boba Fett spinoff a spinoff, or is it part of The Mandalorian season 3? We don't know yet. They haven't really announced it.
I imagine Disney is probably going to bring some clarity to that book of Boba coming up shortly. You might actually see that announcement from Disney before you watch this review, but when we recorded this, Disney had not yet clarified what that actually means.
All in all, I think this season of Mandalorian and the series of Mandalorian has done a good service to Star Wars, and it is a good launching platform for spin-offs, etc. I just hope that they don't water it down to the point where it's, who cares about Star Wars at that point.
I have some of those same concerns too, but I think they did enough character building and stuff in this second season that I'm excited to see where The Mandalorian is going next. I think there's enough setup there to take this show in new direction stuff, and I'm excited to see that. And oh my goodness, they did Luke Skywalker. I can't believe they did Luke Skywalker.
They did, and I'm shocked they got Mark Hamill to voice it again.
Are you a Jedi?
I am.
The budget for a show is obviously very different from the budget for they I would say like Tarkin in Rogue One looks better than Luke in this one. But, given the constraints of COVID and everything, the CGI de-aging thing was pretty good. He does, you don't see his face move. Let me tell you that. He's just standing there.
It's definitely better than Clue in Tron, I can tell you that.
It's a lot better than Clue and Tron, but it's nowhere near as good as Tarkin in Rogue One. If you like this sort of thing, we have lots of discussions on Star Wars. You can find those on our YouTube page. We also have a Season 1 review of The Mandalorian. Make sure to check that out if you haven't already seen it. Matt and I post new videos every Monday and Thursday. If you like this video, make sure to give us a subscribe, ring the bell icon to always see our next videos, and check out our Facebook page where we will always post the day before what's coming up on the YouTube channel next. For now, I'm Randall here in Texas. See everyone later.
I'm Matt here in Michigan. Have a good day. Next time on No Market Media. Please consider checking out some of our other videos.